Stephanie, a prejudiced flight attendant, accused 10-year-old Marcus of causing a disruption during the boarding process. Dressed casually in his favorite superhero t-shirt and worn sneakers, Marcus and his aunt Patricia didn't quite fit in with the sea of business travelers in suits and dresses. But little did they know, this flight was about to become a battleground for something much bigger. As the plane prepared for takeoff from Los Angeles to Chicago, Marcus stood up to grab his book from his backpack. That's when everything went wrong. Stephanie, eyes narrowing, marched down the aisle with a sneer. "Sit down immediately. You're disturbing the passengers," she barked, without giving Marcus a chance to explain. The cabin fell silent, eyes turned toward Marcus and his aunt. Patricia, calm but firm, tried to reason with Stephanie, but the flight attendant's mind was already made up. "I don't want excuses. If you can't follow simple instructions, maybe you shouldn't be flying," she snapped. The hostility was palpable, and within minutes, the situation spiraled out of control. Patricia and Marcus were escorted off the plane by security, humiliated and bewildered. But what no one expected was that this act of discrimination was about to backfire spectacularly. Just 7 minutes after being thrown off the plane, Patricia made a phone call that sent shockwaves through the airline's corporate offices. Marcus wasn't just any kid. His family had connections that would turn this injustice into a viral story, one that would shake the airline to its core. As the airport buzzed around them, Patricia was already on the phone with a high-profile client who happened to be a major investor in the airline. "Mr. Johnson, I'm sure you're going to want to hear about this," she began, her voice calm but seething with quiet fury. As Marcus sat quietly, still shaken, Patricia outlined the entire incident, knowing that the wheels of justice had just begun turning. Within minutes, the video of the incident, captured by a nearby passenger, was making rounds on social media. The hashtags number Justice for Marcus and number Airline Discrimination started trending as people across the country expressed their outrage. Local news stations picked it up first, but soon, national outlets were running the story. The video showed the moment when Marcus, a wide-eyed child, was spoken to with contempt and escorted off the plane. Little did the airline know, this wasn't just going to be another customer complaint buried under bureaucracy. By the time Marcus and Patricia re-entered the terminal, the airline had received hundreds of calls, and their social media accounts were flooded with angry messages demanding justice. The scene at the gate when they were escorted off? That was just the beginning. The airline, desperate to control the damage, immediately offered first-class seats on the next flight. But Patricia had bigger plans. This wasn't going to be swept under the rug. In the coming days, interviews, news segments, and public outrage led to nationwide protests. The airline's leadership scrambled to save their reputation, but it was too late. Marcus had become a symbol of the fight against racial discrimination in air travel. What started as an injustice on a plane turned into a movement no one could ignore. Marcus, with the help of his aunt, found himself not just as the victim of an airline's prejudice, but the spark for a national conversation on fairness, equality, and the power of standing up when the world tries to push you down. As Marcus and Patricia settled into the airport lounge, still reeling from the humiliation, Patricia's phone rang. It was Mr. Johnson, the high-profile client she had called. "Patricia," his voice crackled through the phone, "I'm appalled. Don't worry, we're not going to let this slide. I've already contacted the airline's board of directors. There will be consequences." Little did Patricia know, while she was speaking to Mr. Johnson, a passenger seated just a few rows behind her on the plane had been busy uploading the entire ordeal to social media. The video exploded in popularity within minutes. Comments poured in, expressing anger, disbelief, and a growing demand for justice. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. How could an innocent boy be treated so badly? Influencers and celebrities began sharing the clip, tagging the airline and calling for a boycott. Then, as if the universe wanted to deliver the ultimate blow, a celebrity with millions of followers saw the video and posted it to her own page, calling out the airline directly. Overnight, the video racked up millions of views, sparking headlines across the nation. Marcus and Patricia's phones buzzed nonstop. Reporters were calling, activists were rallying support, and even the airline's executives were feeling the heat. The next morning, the airline's CEO issued a public statement. But it was too late. The video had already taken on a life of its own. The hashtags #Justice for Marcus and #FlyFairNow were trending across every platform. Patricia watched the CEO's shaky apology on live TV, her expression calm but her eyes gleaming with quiet victory. "They're scrambling now," she muttered to Marcus, "but they won't get away with this that easily." But then came the twist no one saw coming. Just when Patricia thought they were gaining ground, the airline announced that Stephanie, the flight attendant who had caused the entire incident, had gone missing. Rumors began to circulate. Was Stephanie hiding from the fallout? Had she been forced out by the airline to avoid scandal? Or was there something much deeper at play? The media couldn't get enough of it. Speculation flew wild, and theories ranged from secret bribery to a cover-up within the company. The flight attendant who kicked off a black boy vanishes. Here's why authorities are now involved. As the story unfolded, an unexpected revelation came to light. A former airline employee stepped forward, leaking confidential documents to the press. The documents exposed a history of similar complaints against the airline, all of them involving racial profiling. Stephanie, it seemed, wasn't acting alone. She had been part of a long-standing culture within the company, one that targeted minority passengers for causing disruptions, a strategy used to overbook flights. The public was furious. Patricia knew they had the airline right where they wanted them. Armed with the leaked documents and public support, she filed a massive civil rights lawsuit. Marcus, once the shy boy afraid to even raise his voice, now stood tall beside his aunt, his courage growing by the day. What Marcus says in court left everyone speechless. You won't believe how the jury reacted. When the case finally reached the courtroom, the world watched with bated breath. As Marcus took the stand, he looked out at the sea of reporters, lawyers, and spectators. His hands trembled at first, but then he remembered why he was there. With his voice strong and clear, Marcus spoke of the injustice he had faced, not just for himself, but for all those who had been wrongfully targeted because of the color of their skin. "I was just trying to get my book," he said, his voice echoing through the courtroom. "But they saw me differently because of how I looked. It wasn't right, and it shouldn't happen to anyone else." The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Even the airline's top lawyers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The jury, visibly moved by Marcus's words, exchanged glances, some wiping tears from their eyes. The jury's decision sends shockwaves across the nation. You won't believe the final outcome. The verdict came quickly. Not only did Patricia and Marcus win their case, but the jury awarded them a settlement so massive it set a legal precedent. The airline was forced to overhaul its policies, implement mandatory diversity training, and offer scholarships for underprivileged youth to pursue careers in aviation. But that wasn't the best part. The final twist? The airline's CEO resigned in disgrace. It was revealed that Stephanie, the flight attendant, had been following unofficial instructions from higher-ups to target specific passengers based on their appearance. The entire company was shaken to its core, and the public outcry led to a nationwide overhaul of airline policies. As Marcus and Patricia stood on the courthouse steps, reporters swarming them, Marcus took the microphone. "This isn't just about me," he said, his voice calm and powerful. "It's about everyone who has ever been judged unfairly. We fought for justice, and today, we won." They thought they could silence him. They were wrong. Marcus's story became a symbol of hope and change across the country. What began as a flight turned into a movement that would forever change how airlines treated their passengers. And Marcus, the boy who once clutched his backpack nervously, now stood at the forefront of a fight for justice that would ripple across generations. And just when you thought it was over, another bombshell drops that no one saw coming. As Marcus and Patricia returned home, ready to move on, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from the airline's new CEO, who had taken over after the scandal. Inside was a personal apology and an offer for Marcus to join their new youth advisory board, shaping the future of airline policy. But Marcus wasn't done yet. He had bigger plans.